Welcome to Barbell Business. I'm Mike Bledsoe, staying here with Doug Larson, Markus Gerszi, and we have a guest today, Max Shank. Dude, you have the fucking most badass name ever. So what's your name? Max Shank. Not messing with that guy.
Is that your nickname or your real name?
They actually asked me at the airport a few times if that's my stage name. And of course, I'm like, what stage are you talking about? You know?
I can only imagine. We brought you in today. You're running from what I understand, I mean, we know that you're running a really great facility here in town, mostly kettlebells, which is not necessarily what everyone in our audience is always doing, but it's definitely something we're interested in. And I've rolled jiu-jitsu with you. I know Doug's rolled jiu-jitsu with you a lot, and everyone I know says you're the strongest guy alive on the mat. So, I've heard all sorts of crazy stories. Like you can put crazy weight overhead and then while picking something else up off the ground. And is this all true?
All of it is 100% true.
The rumors are true. That's true. Every time I roll with a guy, I'm like, if you ever end up in conversation, they're like, oh, yeah, Max, that dude's strong as shit. I'm like, he is strong, isn't he? Damn.
Yeah, I try. I've had Ambition Athletics in town here for 7 years now, actually. So that's probably the coolest thing that I do.
Yeah, that's the coolest.
That's the coolest thing.
So you're kind of known as a kettlebell guy in some respects, but your gym isn't like a kettlebell gym. Like
Yeah.
you still cover the full range of strength and conditioning. You just happen to like kettlebells.
Without
and you're
a
good
doubt.
with them.
And the main reason I like kettlebells is they're just really user-friendly for beginners. I mean, they're really already set up to pick up off the ground for someone who's totally green. You know, teaching someone the deadlift, teaching someone how to pick up a weight and carry it. All these like really fundamental movements are really well suited for kettlebells. And not only that, but they take up far less space. And you guys probably talk about this all the time, but real estate inside a gym is like the biggest thing, especially here in Encinitas where we're paying like $3 a square foot every month for rent. So having 20 sets of barbells isn't really very economical. So
Right. For a group class, it makes a lot of sense.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So kettlebells and gymnastics rings, and we got stall bars and sleds and things like that. So really, what I look for in equipment is something that's multi-purpose and doesn't take up a huge floor print.
Yeah, we sat down and we do a breakfast every Friday. Well,
Except for this Friday.
except for this Friday, yeah. We skip Friday sometimes. Did you go?
We're on the show early today. No,
Yeah.
I couldn't go today.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we were talking at breakfast, and when one of the reasons we want to bring you on the show is when I got chatting with you, I remember the conversation was not the same conversation I have with most gym owners. There's a lot of thoughtfulness. You'd already, 7 years?
7 years, yeah.
So you've already made a bunch of mistakes, and you've learned from them. You know, a lot of people, they get 2 or 3 years in, and they get so frustrated they just quit. So you stuck it through, kept learning the lessons, made some changes. And then a lot of the things that we talked about was, just kind of how you actually started looking at the numbers of what was going on. Whereas when I speak to most CrossFit gym owners or gym owners in general, we get chatting. I start asking them about numbers, and they're like, well, about this or about that. I was like, oh, you don't.
Feels like
Yeah.
my numbers are.
Yeah. And so it's like, oh, okay, you're not actually tracking the numbers.
It
And that was
feels
one of the things.
like I'm eating ramen noodles again.
that was one thing that really stuck out to me. What would you say was your biggest mistake that you learned from and you started making a change around that kind of was the turning point?
I mean, the biggest mistake was probably the first one, and that was just thinking that people will show up as soon as I have a sign on the door.
Oh yeah. Hey, I made that one too.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Did
sure
you
we
A
all
lot
did.
of people make that one.
Did you also have a shitty sign?
Oh, it was horrible.
Yeah,
I got
me
it on
too.
Vistaprint. You guys know what that is, right?
Yeah.
Dude,
Sure.
same thing. I ordered a vinyl.
A vinyl
Yes.
sign.
It
Yeah.
came with the business cards.
It was like $50.
I took
Yeah.
I took a vinyl sign and I wrapped it around the door and taped it on the backside, and there you go.
And you just sat there.
Classy.
And I'm just like, okay, I'm going to wait
Twiddling
for these
the thumbs.
people to come in. I'm going to train the shit out of them.
I got a sign and everything.
Did you have any client base before you started? Like, were you training people like out of your garage or something?
You know, actually, so when I started, my one mistake I didn't make was I didn't, and some people actually disagree whether this is the right idea or not, but I didn't really take any huge chances. I was super conservative all the way through. Like when I started my gym, I had 4 jobs and I was going to San Diego State at the same time. So what happened?
Underachiever.
Yeah.
What happened though is I would I waited basically until the gym was making as much as my lowest paying job. And then when it was, I got rid of the lowest paying job. And then I just sequentially got rid of those jobs because I was like, well, I'm not going to just, be on the hook for 6 months of lease or something like that, which is what I was in the beginning, and, risk everything. I want to at least, be a little bit safe. So I didn't have to go into any debt. I didn't have to take out any loans or anything like that. And it was just very safe.
Sounds like you're very systematic and methodical with that process, whereas the way I would have done it was
all in. This is going to be a Richard Branson move right here, isn't it?
That's right.
Well, the way I did do it was go all in, but that I never. One of the things you're pointing out right now is you set benchmarks, which is something that took me much longer to learn.
Right.
Which was instead of going, oh, I feel like so many people are like, when's the right time to make that leap from my job to being a full-time gym owner? And for me, like, because of where I came from, like, yeah, you just got to make the leap. Like, oh, you have like a wife and 2 kids. I don't know what that's like. But as business has gone on and we've lost money left and right at certain times, I've learned to set benchmarks. If this, then that. And you set it up ahead of time because it'll never be good enough. You'll never make enough money over here to be able to quit this over there. So
Right.
I like that. I like that process of going, oh, when this money equals this, then I can do that. And if you can set that up in your business ahead of time, you'll actually make the changes.
Well, it's the same as setting up an operating agreement if you enter a business partnership, right? I mean, if you don't set up all those conditionals ahead of time, you'll be there in your business with your 3 partners, and then something will happen and be like, well, shit, we didn't expect this. What do we do? And then you have 4 people arguing of what should be done, but that should have been laid out in the very beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. So benchmarks, financial benchmarks are important.
Exactly.
What are some other big mistakes?
Um,
The hugest mistakes of all.
Well, one was actually related to having a more clear operating agreement.
Yeah.
So I actually started a protein bar company several years ago, and I'm not affiliated with it anymore. I sold my shares, but ultimately what happened was I got into business. I had a partner. I had 2 partners, actually. And the long and short of it was that the guy that I was partnered with saw hours in the factory as work, but hours promoting the product and sending emails and going and talking to people as not work. So the long and short of it was we didn't have a clear enough definition of roles, and even though I was selling tons of product, he wanted me in there helping make protein bars in the factory to show I'm a team player. So I didn't think that was reasonable because I could have, spent $10 an hour and hired someone to do that work. So it was just a little bit of a comparative advantage economics lesson for him. And then also an operating agreement lesson for me, where I realized, I got to be more careful and selective of who I partner up with and what the expectations are going in.
Yeah.
That was another big one.
Yeah. And I know currently you do a lot of traveling, you do a lot of seminars and whatnot. How have you set up your gym to run since you're out of town, like maybe up to half the time sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, I was gone like 28 weekends last year, and usually that involves like a Friday and Monday also gone, so it's almost like 28 weeks. The good news about that is that it did give me an opportunity to go visit other gyms and see how other gyms in other states and counties and countries do things. The main reason the gym can run now is because we have the process pretty simple, and really I have a good general manager. My buddy Mike Bledsoe, he's awesome general manager. He takes care of all the scheduling and new people, and he's really good about that.
And so does he just run the gym day to day and doesn't do any coaching? Is he
No,
pure business, or does he kind of do
he's
many things?
Coaching and GM, both, yeah.
Yeah, do you find that's an effective way to use his time? Would it be easier just to have coaches and then have someone focus on just the business? I know some people think it's cool to do both. Some people think you should totally separate them.
On the one hand, I do, and on the one hand, I don't. I feel like I want the manager of the gym to have like a little bit more of their finger on the pulse of what's really going on in the gym. And for that same reason, like I still coach people. I still coach probably when I'm in town, like 15, 20 hours a week, in addition to the book writing and seminar stuff and business end of things. So the nice thing about that is it does give me a little bit of break in the monotony, so I can kind of like pick what I want to work on today. And, obviously I'm a little bit scattered, but, whatever.
So tell us a little more about how your gym functions. So you're not a CrossFit gym.
Right.
We kind of are pointing that out. So how do you make money? What's kind of the bulk of your revenue?
If you're not a CrossFit gym, can you make money?
How do you do it?
Possible.
It is actually only possible to make money as a yoga studio or a CrossFit gym now. No, but basically we make money a couple of different ways. We have 3 tiers, pretty simple: private training, semi-private training, and group training. And some people will tell you that private training is not a good idea. It should be all semi-private training now, but I don't really believe in the whole all or nothing thing. I'm going to let the customer decide, because there are a lot of people now who still really want to just be one-on-one with you.
Mm-hmm.
And if they want to be on one with a coach, hey, great for them. And obviously it's much higher price point. And the nice thing about that is we always start our sales process with that really high price point, which even with our least experienced coaches is $100 a session for personal training. And the nice thing about that is, even if they're not interested in personal training, now that they've seen, PT is $100 a session, our group classes are between $160 and $200. So it makes that so easy.
Right.
Really.
Yeah, we used to do something similar. We had personal training. Not many people took it, but we didn't do it by the hour. We did it by the month.
Right.
You could do 4 times a week for the month, and it was $1,700. And we always started, it's $1,700 a month, and then be like, oh, you can do CrossFit for $200 a month. They're like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's do that.
No, let's do that.
That sounds really cheap. Cutting you a deal.
Exactly, right?
So what does your sales process look like? How does it work? Someone gets to your website, they're interested. Kind of walk us through the steps.
We're actually changing things up quite a bit now. We're trying to get people to commit bigger in the beginning for trials. Like what we used to do is we do a 2-week free trial. We had a free intro class every Saturday because we wanted the barrier to be really small. But what we found is that the sales process was more difficult when they hadn't put any skin in the game. So now what we're doing is we're offering a little bit higher price point, like $99 trial, where they get like a private intro session and then 2 semi-private sessions also. And that really gets them not only to know the coach better, but also to understand the movements better, get a little bit more one-on-one attention. And then by that point, they kind of already know if they want to stick with it or not. So then what we'll do is we'll give them an offer on week 3 of 4 of their trial if they want to jump and get 13 months for the price of 12.
Got it.
Yeah. So we have kind of like a little bit more intense trial and a little bit higher price point. And we found that converts a little bit better to a full membership than the 2-week free trial did.
What does your that first intro session look like? What are you guys covering?
Yeah. So the first intro session is mainly going to be about health history and goal setting, and then teaching them some basic fundamental movements to really keep them safe, honestly. And then from there, the coach will then decide if they meet the parameters. Like we have people do a kettlebell swing, which is from a deadlift, of course, and then a get up, goblet squat, lunge, push up, row, things like that. So if they can do all those in an intro session, they're safe, they're cleared to come into class. We're really careful about not just throwing people into a group class. Like I saw an ad the other day for another local gym that is now a big chain, and I'm not going to mention it because it's not the kind thing to do. But of course, it's just free session, free group session. Come in anytime, and of course, there's no like real health history taken. There's no real movement assessment or anything like that, and it's downright neglect as far as I'm concerned. And of course, it's the easy mark, but a lot of the good gyms that I've worked with and that I know, they make really special consideration for people getting acclimated to the training.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, any of the gyms that have a more comprehensive and just complex kind of training program like CrossFit, like what you do, and just the more sophisticated gyms, in my opinion, should always have that screening and expectation setting and all that. Because yes, it is easier, and sometimes you do have the one-man show who's just getting off the ground, who's like, hey, all I can do is get someone in my class. I'll chat with them a few minutes before and after, and like,
sure,
that's the best you can do. I got it. But
totally.
If you have the means to do it, to be able to have that kind of screening and setup process, I think makes all the difference. Bringing people in, because it's not just about the safety piece, but it's also the expectation setting, making sure that you say, look, you're going to go into the program. This is what you can expect based on your shoulder injury that I just saw. We want to work around this, or maybe avoid this. If you see this, do this instead. and just set yourself up for success and the client.
And that's the first step to showing them that you care in the first place, right?
Right.
Is that you really want them to succeed. You really want to know everything about their body that you possibly can.
Because what we sell, like the premium memberships, like a CrossFit gym and like what you do, you're not selling a training program. You're selling the coaching. You're selling this, like, hey, we're here to guide you through this.
Right.
And that's what you're going to pay the premium for versus the $30 down the street.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't get that across when someone just comes in, jumps into a class, and they're like, what's a kettlebell snatch? Like, I don't know what that any of that is. I've never even touched a kettlebell in my life, and I'm doing some complicated stuff because they're just at the mercy of the program that day or whatever it is, right? So, nice.
And we're all trying to, toe that line between being the most business savvy, but also deliver the greatest quality product. Because the truth is, like, the revenue per square foot on like a spin class or a yoga class where you got one instructor and like 40 or 50 people is for sure better, right? For sure. But, finding that balance where you can get people doing these really big, like compound functional movements and working on their mobility and getting stronger and, that kind of stuff it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, but they may have the better, per square foot when you look at it from like 40 students in a class and one instructor.
Yeah.
But we also have the luxury of selling a way more premium service like you have with your semi-private and private training, where you can bring your average client value up into the $200-300 when you get it right. Like the show we did with Eric a few weeks back. Dude's running a CrossFit gym with 109 members, I think, and the average client value is like $375.
Oh, that's great.
So smashing it, right?
Yeah.
But it's because it's all about quality. He's just like, dude, when you come in from the sales process to the onboarding and the programming and how it goes out from there on out, it's just all top level stuff. And you can set yourself up for it right from the beginning if you get it right.
Exactly. No, that's a great point.
Yeah, I'd imagine with that model as well, having happy and fulfilled coaches is so much easier because they have quality relationships with people that are like super dedicated and that they have a really good relationship with, rather than there's 40 people in a class and there's 40 people every hour on the hour, and so it's just churn and burn. And you talk to some of them, hey, what's up, Marcus? Good to see you, buddy. Yep, see you tomorrow. Yeah. And there's no real relationship there. Where you could, in your case, with the more personal training or semi-private training, like you're going to be able to keep coaches for a lot longer, and really good coaches, because it's probably just more fun and more fulfilling and more engaging for the coach that's coaching semi-private or personal training rather than just 40 people an hour where they're just leading people through stretches all day long with like no real relationship being built.
Right.
No, that's a good point about the coaches too. Coaching satisfaction's got to be huge, because anytime a coach leaves, it does leave a big hole. And no matter how you try to ameliorate that problem by making sure each client is working with not just this one coach, and they're not something like that. But I've been really lucky, and in the past 7 years, I've got one coach who's been with me for 6, another one 5.5, and then the rest of them have been like 3-4 years. And then we just hired 2 more people this year. But taking care of the coaches is really paramount, I think. And when I started having more frequent one-on-one meetings with each of my coaches, I actually saw that my business improved too, and everyone was a lot happier and more clear on what the mission was.
Well, at the end of the day, the better the coaches feel about what they're doing and who they're working for and what they're delivering and the impact they can make, the longer they're going to stay, because they're more satisfied, and they're going to be better coaches on the floor, which means your product's better, which means your retention's better. It all goes downhill. So it's one of the best investments I think you can make.
Yeah. Well, the clients seem to be happy. The coaches seem to be happy. So I was just like, you guys do your we went a whole year. We went a whole year without having one meeting. Nobody met. I didn't meet with the general manager in any like official terms. I'd be like, "Hey, Mike, what's happening?" We just like lift or something.
Anything
like that.
On fire? Nope.
Yeah.
Cool. Talk to you later.
But I mean, literally, we spent a whole year, and that was the slowest year in the whole business by far. I traveled like a motherfucker. I literally was gone like somewhere between like 24 and 30 weekends that year. It was the slowest year for the gym, but also the biggest year for me traveling wise, because I was making good money teaching these seminars. But you have to be in more constant communication with your team. And I actually read this book recently called Extreme Ownership. Have you guys read that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
it's
We're
awesome.
big fans.
It's actually one of the Barbell Shrugged core values, extreme ownership, from that book.
Insane change for me, and it's actually made me cut back on my travel a little bit very deliberately, even though I can make some money doing that. I feel like an increased responsibility to stay local and really oversee the whole process a little bit better than before. And it's made a difference. It's gotten better. So one-on-one meetings with the coaches and then group meetings really help a lot.
We were talking a little bit before we hopped on the microphones, and you were talking about there was that short-term cash that was that was sitting there for when you did the seminars on the weekends.
Right.
But you recognized that the gym just wasn't growing so quickly, even though I get a cash injection here,
right
there, along the way, and then when it's over, it's over. It's not.
I was too short-sighted.
Yeah.
And I grew up like ridiculous poor, so I remember the first time I made like $5,000 in a weekend to teach a seminar, which is something I would have done for free. Honestly, I was like, holy shit, this is the greatest thing ever. And then what happened is I just got caught in that pattern where I was like chasing $5,000, chasing $8,000, but it never amounted to anything. Like it doesn't have any chance to grow. I mean, I'll invest it and that's like a whole different conversation. But I was just way too short-sighted in my thinking. I wasn't focusing on growing the local audience for the gym. I wasn't focused on growing the gym, and that kind of stuff needs to be the bread and butter, because that's going to stick with you and be that consistent recurring revenue.
Right.
So even though the workshops and the books were doing great, honestly, I was just neglecting the gym, and it slowed my growth down for sure in the long run. So if I had focused more on growth, I think I would have done better than if I had just been chasing like the easy cash.
Yeah, I think it's happening less now, but there was a period of time, and we made a run at it 2 different years, which is putting on competitions. And it's common with CrossFit gyms. They're like, oh, I want to put on the competition in the area. And you put on a competition, and it might generate a bunch of money in a very short, one time, and then it's over. And if you want to make that money again, you have to do it again and again and again. And it's actually not that much money. Like when you think about like how much work went into it, people are like, "Oh, we made like $10,000." It's like you spent 3 months
Opportunity
trying
cost.
to make $10,000 one time.
Right.
You could have put that.
The 4 of you spent 3 months.
Yeah.
Not just one person.
Yeah.
If the 4 of you spent that time and energy building the business, you'd be making that $10,000 maybe every month. From
Exactly.
There on out.
And
Right.
people make the mistake in those events like I did, where I was like, dude, I made $5,000 in 2 days. No, you didn't. You made $5,000 in like a year of developing the curriculum and several months of promoting the course and dedicating a lot of time and energy to this shit. It wasn't one day, and that was the mistake I made.
Yeah, people forget about the marketing.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like, oh yeah, I mean, it cost me this much to put it on. It's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, but you spent like how much on ads? How much of your time went into promoting?
Well,
Travel,
and then I have someone on salary who helps me out too. So I mean, that's got to be an allocable expense.
Yeah, people not counting labor, I think, is really, really common. They're like, I go to this thing.
Their own labor.
I make that's right. Their own labor or anyone else's labor. Like, okay, well, I'll make $5,000, and the plane ticket's only $700, and the hotel's only going to be $400. Well, I'm going to make $4,000 or whatever it is, and it's like you counted like a small percentage of what the actual costs are going to be.
And there's no opportunity cost factored into there.
That's right. That's right.
I think
I would say opportunity cost has made like the biggest difference in what I would charge for something.
Oh yeah.
It's like, I'll do that,
me
but I
too.
could be doing this. Oh, this is going to get expensive real quick for you.
Oh
Yeah.
That's exactly it. I mean, I'm actually doing a workshop in Poland in November, which is pretty cool. And
Good time of year in Poland, I hear.
yeah, it's
I hear the weather's great.
November is the best time to go to Poland. I'm actually going to Poland and Germany. But it was the same thing for Poland, is like, I was getting so many requests to do seminars at people's gyms, and I was like, at the point where, I'm making enough coaching people here in person. Like, it takes a lot now to get my ass out of Encinitas where there's sunshine and things like that. And it's because of what we said, is that opportunity cost. Like, you could be making plenty here, working on the gym, writing another book, training clients even. You got to take all those things into consideration. That's why I think a basic econ class is like a must.
What would be in that econ class?
Opportunity cost benefit analysis, which is how we should make every decision. We do make every decision based on a cost benefit analysis. We just don't know it. Like, every time you go to reach for a cup of coffee, you're like, well, the energy it would take me to go get this coffee is so worth the benefit of drinking this coffee, something like that. And then understanding marginal cost, marginal benefit. I mean, really, a half a day, you could learn pretty much everything you need to economics-wise and apply it to your business and really just your life, because everything economics is just the study of how people make decisions and what cause and effect they have. So I think that's something that's really missing a lot in school, for sure.
Yeah.
The other benefit to traveling, even if you're going to break even, like I would go to Poland at break even, no problem. Just
Right.
because I want to go to Poland and not pay a bunch of money and like be out $5,000. I'd rather break even and go to Poland. So for me, travel, that's way more about like actually being able to travel. Like traveling is the benefit, and if I can do it at break even or make a little bit of money where I can keep doing it and I'm profitable, then I'm all for it. If I'm gonna not do it as a business expense and try to travel like, you know, half the time, like every other weekend, like I'm just gonna run out of money and not be able to do it anymore. So traveling to Poland and being break even or making a little bit of money sounds amazing.
Yeah, dude, it really has been awesome. I've gotten to meet some amazing people in many different countries all over the world, and for that reason, though, every time I travel, I make money so that I don't want to take a vacation, because when I think of taking a vacation, I'm like, wait, I got to pay for this shit?
Yeah, my own pocket.
Anyone want to learn some cool shit while I'm here?
Well, Ashley and I were talking about that last night. She was like, we haven't been on a non-business trip in maybe ever.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
I don't want to go on a non-business trip. Every time I go on a business trip, it's always like way more fun than actual vacation. Like every time I go to a mastermind, I have more fun at the mastermind than I do when like I go to Hawaii like with my family.
Hopefully your family's not listening to this.
There's so much fun. I've told Marcy that more than once.
Marcy, if you're listening to that, he doesn't mean it.
Yeah, we gave him truth serum before the show.
That's awesome.
I tell that all the time. I'm like, our fucking business trips are awesome.
That's good.
Not that I don't want to go to Hawaii with my family. That's awesome too. But I just like our business trips.
It's not that the family stuff sucks. It's that the business stuff
I think
sucks.
you
That's
need
right.
a business trip to Hawaii so you can make everybody happy.
That's right.
Hey, we already talked about it. It's on the list.
It's on the list.
It's on the short
It is
list
on the
at that.
list. We're gonna
Australia
hike
too.
the Poly Coast
Yep.
in Kauai for a mastermind someday.
Oh,
I
that's
think
a
I
good
get a
idea.
message maybe once a
2017.
week.
Yeah.
Once a week from an Australian wanting us to come out. We just need to pull the trigger on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe next year we'll do it.
Spring. When's a good time to go to Australia, Doug?
Anytime is a good time to go to Australia.
Probably
Well,
winter here,
I
right?
was living in the tropics, so it was nice year round. There were people where I was living, like in Townsville and in Cairns, where they've never put on long pants because it was cold out ever their whole life.
Never put on long pants. Is that what they call them there?
Yeah.
Long
pants. You been to Australia?
Yeah.
Australia's the shit.
It's great.
You doing seminars there?
Yeah, I taught a seminar in Melbourne. It was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, really nice.
Well, there you have it. We're
All
going
right.
to Australia.
Should we take a break?
Yes.
All right, let's take a break.
My name is Meg Herman. I am the co-owner of Reebok CrossFit Coastal Carolina on Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. I am here to tell you what a difference Barbell Logic has made to our business in the last 8 months. In that time period, we have grown by 67 new members. That's net new members. And our revenue, top line revenue, is up 31%. When I first met the Barbell Logic team, I was the quintessential harried entrepreneur doing just about everything you can think about in the gym to keep it going, to keep it growing. So I thought. It was a real struggle, constantly coaching, accounting, cleaning, doing all those things. And what I was recognizing at that point was we weren't growing. And I was working really hard in the business, but not on the business. So when I met Barbell Logic, we spent a great deal of time talking about best practices. How do we really create the systems that help us run the gym and create the growth and the profitability that we need? We spent a ton of time talking about best practices, talking about the systems that you need to run a gym effectively and to grow and to focus on growth. And every market's different. My demographic is different from yours and from the next person's gym. But the key is to create the systems that are going to work for you. When I met the Barbell Logic team, I really feel like I gained a team of consultants, people that were ready to help us and create those ideas. And then we implemented the tool. But the first thing that happens is we redesign the website, and our website is killer. It is very interactive. It's actually a lot of fun, but most importantly, there's several calls to action. Some people come to the website and they're not quite ready to sign up for that free week. They can interact with a video, or they can download an ebook. It's a lot of fun. They can get a lot of information, but as soon as they start giving us their information about who they are, they're a part of our system, and then we have them to talk with over time, so that eventually they come in. And it's beautiful. The whole thing works without me doing anything at all. All right, so then the next thing that happened is we really started working on our systems. The new client experience, the new athlete experience is crucial. It's crucial in gaining new members. And I feel like we've got a really good system that's in place for when a new athlete comes into our gym, and it's 90% automated. That means I only have to touch it here and there and make a quick phone call, reach out, find out how people are doing. This has made all the difference. We also have a real referral program. We're sending out surveys on a regular basis, and we're talking to our athletes, retaining our athletes, and giving them good information along the way. It's working really, really well. Our visitors, when they come to the website, know exactly what to do, and we talk to them on a regular basis before they come in. The visitor piece was really huge for us in our vacation land of Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. What I want to tell you most about if you're running your business without a funnel of new athletes, a sales funnel, you're really missing the boat. I feel like what Barbell Logic has provided us is an enterprise level solution for a small business, right? Every day I go into my dashboard and I look and see who's interacting with us, who needs a phone call, who might be coming to visit the gym the next day or so. And I have a couple of touch points to work on so that I have a continuous process and a continuous sales funnel and a continuous stream of new athletes. The key to growth, I believe, is to be able to focus on that on a daily basis and to keep improving and keep working at it. And we at Reebok CrossFit Coastal Carolina, we're not going to stop. I really feel like we are on a pathway to control this marketplace and to be the CrossFit in our area. And I owe a lot of that to the folks at Barbell Logic. And if you want to improve your gym and if you want to have that kind of stability in your market, I highly recommend you get on a call with Barbell Logic. I feel like this is the tool you need to grow.
Potty.
Oh, we're back.
Premium potty.
I think it's got memory foam on it, probably. Right?
I can't have ugly things in my house. And the plastic
You
one
let
is
me
not
in.
going to
What's
work.
up with that?
Stole my joke.
Well,
I'm like, I'm here every week.
we were just talking about when we travel, what would be cool. I think we were talking about Tim Ferriss. I think he has one of those electric longboards.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's choosing to have it. I think they send it to him
Wherever he goes.
wherever he goes. And I was saying, all I want is a fucking squatty potty, like wherever I go, because that's the thing I miss most when I travel.
Mhm.
I'm in a hotel. It's not the food. It's not the bed. It's the squatty potty. It just messes up my shit.
You just got
Literally.
You got to use the trash can, dude.
Yeah. So you have this. You have this hack. You have a squatty potty hack.
Well, I have a squatty potty at home that I built myself, and then
This
when
dude
I'm
is
traveling,
a lot of man.
I try. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure how to respond to that. But what I'll do is I'll just take the trash can and I'll put my feet right on that. It's about the perfect height. It's not as comfortable. It's not your bamboo, but in a pinch,
Mm-hmm.
it'll work.
All puns intended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you picked up
Do,
on that.
do you know do you know the ideal hip angle for taking a shit?
I do not know the ideal hip angle.
110 degrees.
Really?
Yeah. Just if you were wondering.
So that's
Has
not
anyone done all the research on all the
I don't know about-
angles?
I don't-
and then how,
You
do
know
they
Mike
how do
has.
they measure the success?
This is what Teresa Larson told me.
What's
by weight?
What's the colon variability though between people? Like,
Great question.
I can't imagine that it's 110 degrees across the board. I mean, that's like ass to
This is-
grass for
thi-
some people.
This is where I got in a conversation with somebody. Teresa Larson, she's a PT and
Been on the show.
Mhm.
and she comes from a tall family, and I guess her brother was like saying that the squatty potty is actually ridiculous for them because they don't need it because they're already at 110 degrees.
Because they're like 6'10", her brothers,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah,
They're very
like-
tall.
Yeah. So
I mean,
it's
I
like-
can
it's
only
like,
speak for myself, but I feel like more hip flexion is better.
Mm-hmm.
Up to a point.
So scientific.
So how'd you build a squatty potty? What'd you do? Is it fancy?
No, I just bought some 2x4s at Home Depot, and I made that thing in about 20 minutes.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Can you take a picture of this and send it to us? I think
Yeah,
this
sure.
needs to go in the show notes.
Yeah. Well, I will say this about my carpentry, that it does not follow my normal rules for opportunity cost. I actually have built a kitchen table and a coffee table. And if I had to charge my hourly rate, I think they would both be in excess of about $5,000 each.
Is that more just like personal creative fulfillment for you? You just enjoy it?
Yeah, I enjoy it. I don't know. I like the feeling of having shit that I built in my house rather than just like going to fucking IKEA.
Yeah.
You know?
Hey, dude, the shit I buy at IKEA, I have to build it too. I have to like find the holes. I gotta get the screw. I gotta like use the tools they sent in the box with the couch. You know.
Yeah, you're very limited.
It's practically the same thing.
Same thing.
Same
My
thing.
own bare hands.
Exactly.
So have you built your own squatty potties for the gym as well?
Not for the gym, no.
No?
No, I should. That's not a bad idea.
You should totally do it.
I'll put the Ambition logo on the side or something like that.
Branded. Done.
Branded squatty potties. You can't steal that idea, right?
All right, so what's next for the gym? Where are you heading in the next year or two?
Honestly, I'm looking for a new building.
Yeah?
You know, I would like a little bit more space. We have about 2,000 square feet of just gym space, so that doesn't include like bathrooms, locker rooms, and all that stuff, which is a pretty sweet setup. But I'm looking to, in the next, when it makes sense, buy a building. It's just in Encinitas, real estate is not like very readily available, honestly.
No.
And we're looking at probably about $400 or $500 a square foot. 5,000 square foot building, so it's going to be like probably around $2 million. So I gotta wait for the right pitch.
Pay
Nice.
cash.
Yeah.
Just pay cash.
Just pay cash, yeah, dude, absolutely.
You got this.
sell all my stocks, go all in on one piece of real estate.
Mhm.
That would be your move, though.
Yeah,
wouldn't it?
yeah.
It
That's
would.
why I don't have any stocks. I've already done that.
Oh my god, I remember reading the Richard Branson autobiography, and it was the most stressful fucking thing I've ever read in my life.
For someone like you, yeah.
Oh my god! Every time the bank's like fucking calling him, and he's mortgaging this and selling this, and I'm just like, dude, what is going on? That guy should have gone bankrupt 1,000 times.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
You know, and that's what people don't get though. And you know, maybe it's because I'm a pussy or whatever, or I'm just not geared for that kind
Not
of
your
risk.
style.
Maybe it's just not my style, right?
Yeah.
But you know, for every Richard Branson, there's like 10,000 guys who tried that same tactic and are now
got their ass handed
Right.
to them.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Well-
It's confirmation bias or survivor bias.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's like a Bulgarian weightlifter.
Throw eggs at a wall and see which one doesn't break, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's different styles of entrepreneurship, so that's why
It's
that's
got to be personal to you, right?
it's kind of like our style of doing things when we teach business is it's very principle based. I mean, training too. If you stick to the principles, it will work for everybody. But when you start getting into like very specific methods of like this is the only way you can run your business, that's when you run in trouble because people have different styles. Like my style is kind of like the all in. Like I'm either all in or I'm all out. I don't like to do anything. Like I don't like to dip my toes in the water of anything. But that works better for a lot of other people. So just,
Without a doubt.
but the principles of business are the same. We're gonna agree on 95% of what's happening in business, things that need to happen to be successful, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And what I've acknowledged is that's like it's a strength and a weakness for me because anyone who's made a lot of money has risked a lot. Every billionaire out there has risked it all at one point or another, maybe several times. And I know for me, that's like an ongoing battle where I'm like convincing myself that it's okay to risk a little bit more. And the funny thing is it's not even like close to risking everything because I've stocked a lot away in like retirement and stuff like that. But I just have a tendency to be a little bit of a pussy about business and financial risk.
Well, I wouldn't look at it as being a pussy as much as it's just you've kind of figured out your style and
Maybe that's what
where
it is, yeah.
you've identified your personality and your strengths and weaknesses as who you really are, and then you've adapted that to your entrepreneurship honestly. And so I think when you make the honest connection, you can really work in a style that is yourself rather than what a lot of people do, which is why I think a lot of people fail with the example that Mike gave and you, where people go all in, but that's not really who they are. So they're not really 100% confident or they're not really that good at it. That's when it's out of alignment and you kind of shit the bed.
And that brings it back to Mike's principles thing. Is as
Right.
long as you
But
stick
the
with the
principle-
principles but stay true to yourself, then it
And you
typically works
practice
out.
being good at yourself, you will
Right.
get better. Like what you're doing now is you're practicing getting better at it, where you're like, maybe I don't need to be quite so like averse to risk taking, and I can start to push that a little bit more.
Right.
But you're working within your style, so you're actually going to get better at it.
Well, and I mean, I'm kind of coming from the other direction. Is I used to throw the dice really hard all the time. Ask Doug, and then the risks have become more calculated over time.
Right.
So a lot of things where I was just like, oh yeah, you know what? I didn't even know what metrics or whatever we should be looking at when making these types of decisions. And then after the fact, realize, oh, these are the things we should be watching because that's what could happen. Holy shit, that's terrible. And so, like, the longer I go, I don't know if I would call myself more conservative. It's just I consider more.
It's maybe more calculated.
Yeah, it's just a more calculated risk as time goes on. It sounds like you're becoming a little more. The more knowledge you accumulate, the more you can. What appears to be risk you can take on.
Right, exactly. It's all about calculated risk. I mean, whether you're doing something in your own business, whether you're investing in the stock market, you need to go in with what is the worst case scenario and what is the best case scenario, and then what's the probability of best case scenario, what's the probability of worst case scenario, and that's where like a little bit of basic math and arithmetic will really come in handy and help you decide, is the juice worth the squeeze, basically.
Yeah, we had something happen in the business just the other day where somebody brought something to us and was like, oh, I want to do this. And immediately I was like, I'm not sure I feel good about that. And it's like, why is my intuition telling me, this is a red flag? And then I asked the person, I was like, what's the potential upside? What's the potential downside?
Right.
Well, the potential upside is actually not that much. And the potential downside is like, it's like, well, I mean, I don't know what could happen, but, these types of things have happened with other people in the past. I'm going, yeah, it's
not worth it.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, it's and that's what you figure out is, you can have something that's a big risk as long as the payoff is equally good, right?
Oh, yeah, it needs to be 10x.
Yeah.
Not double.
Yeah.
Like 10, maybe
exactly.
100x.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much are you going to risk for a complete loss for
Right.
5 times your money? Probably not going to spend that much on that, but if you can risk a complete loss for like 50 to 100 times your money, might be worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're absolutely risk averse. And so the way I think about it is like, I don't need to not be me. I need to be more me. Right. I think everyone should try to be more themselves, and then I can kind of like outsource risk taking to Mike in a way. And then, true. But that's really how I think about it. Like he can take care of it. I don't need to worry about it. I don't need to not be me. I can totally be me. He can do the risk taking, so to speak, and I can pull him back, and he can pull me forward, and then somewhere in the middle we'll end up meeting, and we'll be in a good spot. But over time, if this is the line, we've kind of come towards each other. I'm
Right.
more comfortable with taking some more risk than I would have in the past, and he's more comfortable with slowing down and figuring out, is this really going to work, or should we just jump all in before we even think about it?
And that's a good lesson.
Ready, fire,
anyway,
aim,
right?
Yeah.
That's a good lesson anyway too, because you got to find people who complement you.
Yeah.
And so the fact that you complement each other, I mean, especially as like a gym owner, you start hiring people, you need to be super honest with yourself about what you suck at. And find someone else who can do that for you, because there are things that I am terrible at. Like I am the worst at answering emails in the history of mankind. It is
You
something,
too?
It is something that
You guys need to go head to head.
It is something that
I'm at least 10 days behind right now.
oh, dude, that's a fucking amateur right there. Like I don't look
messed
forward
up?
to it. I totally dread answering emails because a lot of it is just bullshit. So I have someone else look through it first, and then even still, I get all the stuff filtered out, and then it's only stuff that is important, and I'm like, okay.
you and I are alike in that.
Yeah.
Like I have somebody else that filters out my email, and I'm like, oh geez, here we go.
It just feels like a waste of time, even though it's not. It just
It's
feels
not a
like
waste
a waste
of
of time.
Yeah.
It feels like it. I don't know why I can't get around it, but
I feel like the less I check my email, the less people email me.
No doubt.
And then the less people email me, the less I have to check my email. And now I just don't check my email that often.
and now I just never talk to anyone ever.
Life is good.
The autoresponder is good,
Yeah.
You know, I would, I don't do it right now, but before I had someone checking my email for me. I had the autoresponder, which was, hey, I get a lot of emails. It might take me 7-10 days to get back to you, so on and so forth. I noticed that as soon as I put that autoresponder in, I got fewer emails.
Of course.
So now, if you're dealing with customers directly and you're handling sales,
you cannot do that.
You cannot do this.
Yeah, that's right.
Gym owners, do not follow that lead.
Yeah, we're not in the customer service role in any way at the moment.
Yeah.
Most of my emailing's with our internal team, and truth be told, these days, once I started just calling people, I call everybody now. I'm on the phone all fucking day. Once I started calling people, I stopped emailing so much.
Yeah.
I might follow up with an email just to
faster.
Here's the bullets of what we talked about, just so we're clear. Does that look right to you? That type of thing. But
and that's because you've had to deal with people like Mike and myself who don't get back to you for 10 days.
My goal right now is to get to a point where I don't check the email at all, and then somebody can just give me an update on the daily. 30 minutes, let's sit down.
You can have a
What do you need to
stenographer kind of type it out for you, all the important key points.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
I have a weekly or maybe a daily call for 10 minutes. Here's what came in. They tell you, say this, say this, say this, say this. I'm out.
Totally. Yeah, I want someone to know me well enough to
dream
this
setup.
is what Mike means. I got a feeling some shit's gonna go sideways.
I can't wait.
So Max, you run a gym. You fucking travel constantly doing seminars. You said earlier that you've written a couple of books. I've read one or two of them. Awesome books. You're super fucking busy. Do you have any productivity, efficiency type tips for someone that just can't seem to get anything done?
Dude, you got to start early and you got to set a timer. I have 3 different timers that I use. 2 of them are actually hourglasses. Because
low tech.
Super low tech, and one of them is for 30 minutes, one is for an actual hour. And what I'll do is I'll just turn it over and I'll start working. And the nice thing about the hourglass is that it doesn't ding when 30 minutes is up. So I can keep working without losing my rhythm. And what I found when I set an alarm, because setting an alarm to just get started, and I do the same thing with training with people.
You know what, though?
Here's a
And
15-minute
hourglasses
block.
look way cooler.
Way cooler.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they look awesome on my desk.
I'm going to get on Amazon and order one.
You just seem like you're probably wise for some reason. They have that vibe to them. Something wise is happening.
There's an hourglass and a
Wisdom
bonsai
is in the
tree,
room.
right?
I need one of these just to impress my friends at this point.
Exactly. It'll go next to the bamboo squatty potty.
It's a race on Amazon right now.
It's happening.
Yeah, so basically, the nice thing about the hourglass is it doesn't beep when time's up, so you can just keep working. And normally when you set the timer with your phone or whatever like that, it beeps, and then you're like, oh, I'm done working. Even though you were right in the middle of something that was, had all the inertia finally built up to it, so having to start over sucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the concept of treating work just like you treat training. If you go to the gym and you're going to train, the chances of you checking your email or sifting through YouTube videos while you're in the middle of training is super, super low. Because you go train, you're super focused. You just train. That's the only thing you're doing. You're not on phone calls. You're not on email. You're not half working on a project, half surfing the web, and half training. You don't do a set of squats and then go over and play on the internet and then go back to squat during your rest interval. You're just training. That's how work should be too. You shouldn't be distracted. You should be super singularly focused on one activity with no other distractions to get anything done, in my opinion.
I was just about to make a joke about wait, so you're saying that you should actually just focus on what you're doing and get that done instead?
Blasphemy.
Wow.
Holy shit.
It's interesting. One of the things I've been doing at the Ultimate Athleticism course that I teach is I'll talk to people a little bit about habits too, because 80% of the people I'm teaching in these seminars are coaches, and they're, of course, trying to not only get in better shape themselves, but also help themselves out business-wise. So you kind of have to blur that line a little bit. And what I have people do now is I'll actually have them plan out what their whole day is and attach a number value to it based on hours. So you can take a couple of averages. People sleep 8 hours a day. People work typically 8 hours a day. TV, unfortunately, is between 3 and 5 hours a day.
What?
And yeah, so
Really?
that's people watch a little bit in the morning, a little bit in the evening.
holy
So you
shit.
look at these averages.
I went to a restaurant the other day, and they had CNN up, and they had these people, and it was loud in this Italian restaurant. And I was just Ashley's you want to eat here? I was like, no. Get me the fuck out of here. Anyways.
Yeah, so what I have them do is I have them list out.
Don't put political debates in your business.
So what I do is I have people list out how they use their time in a day, and if the number doesn't add up to 24, we have a problem, obviously. So when they see how they're spending their day, it's much easier to develop a plan moving forward. And then what we'll do is we'll do the same thing. We'll take whatever amount of time that was for training, and we'll blow that out into a pie chart too. So now you got 2 pie charts. You got a pie chart for how you spend your time in the day. You got a little pie chart that's like a pop-out of how you spend your time training-wise. And then you can figure out what you should do from there. Because a map is no good unless you have that like little "you are here" arrow at the top.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's kind of what this is. So we do like a resource allocation for your time. And then the nice thing about this is I don't have to tell someone what they should do. Then they can just see it in front of them. And that's like how you actually get someone to change anyway. Like if I'm coaching with someone, I used to do this when I was business coaching, be like, you need to do this. And then I'd like talk to them next week and be like, hey, did you do this? They'd be like, no. I'm like, well, why the hell not? And the reason is people need to find the solution themselves. So if you just display the information, they'll be able to find the solution. But if you just give them the answer, it's not as good. So that's another huge one, is just figure out what your pie chart looks like. And I always ask people after they fill out the pie chart, they list out what their goals are.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, do you deserve any of those? And
That's a powerful question. Do you
yeah.
deserve these goals? And they have to answer that?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And the truth is, like, most people don't. You know, there was this great quote actually. I can't remember it exactly. I'll butcher it, but it was Charlie Munger, who's Warren Buffett's partner. And someone asked him, he's like, "Well, how do you get this? How do you get this? How do you get this?" And Charlie Munger was like, "Well, if you want to have a good wife, just deserve a good wife. Like, you will find life a lot easier if you simply deserve something before you get it." And that's it.
I deserve really good shit.
Mike loves Mike.
Yeah. I am as good as I think I am.
I must have some epic
Thanks,
shit right
Max.
around the corner. Very cool. Well, I think that's really cool how you break it out like that. And that's, kind of the pie chart off of that and letting people see that data and just, this is how you're spending your time. Do you really think that this should get you here? And it's very clearly no. And when we do the business consulting aspect of like Barbell Logic and we're onboarding new clients, there's usually that awakening period too, where we take them through several exercises of like, let's take inventory on what you're doing today so that we can even identify where the strengths, because you're clearly doing something right. You're in business, right? You're doing something really well. Some things maybe not quite as well as they should be, and then that's not happening at all. But let's take inventory and let's just talk about what's happening. Because once you've identified it and you've laid all the cards on the table, it's just very apparent, like, you're right. That's why I'm not growing, because my sales and marketing process sucks or is non-existent, or I'm having retention issues because of this. And it's all just very obvious. And now you can move into the prescription and like, now let's talk about different ways we can tackle this, because it's based off of their own discovery of the issue, rather than you just getting on the phone and being like, I took a look at your business and this is what you're going to do.
Right.
Because the likelihood of them doing something that's really uncomfortable and something that they've clearly not done for a reason in the past because they don't like doing it, or it's something they're not that great at yet, or whatever it is, they're addressing a fear, that now you can actually move forward with it because you've agreed on that together through their discovery.
Oh, without a doubt. And you got to look at logistics before specifics. Like, it doesn't even matter what you're doing if you're not doing anything. Like, you just have to at least allocate your time to be working on this. Like, I have a really bad comprehension when I read something. I don't know what it is. My comprehension when I read is horrible. So I might have to read something a few times. And right now, I probably only can remember about 7% of all the shit that I've read. So when people are like, well, how do you know so much, like at these seminars? I'm like, well, everything I know, just rest assured that I've read about 10 times as much as that, and your retention is never going to be good. So the main thing is just spend the time. Before you worry about what exactly you're doing, or like this secret thing or that secret thing, just spend a lot of time.
Well, I think the lesson of what you just said is that it's 7%. And if you didn't know it was 7%, and you just kept reading one book at a time once, and you're like, I've read like 1,000 books and none of it's fucking sticking. It's like, well, it's because you're not using the data of like, are you actually retaining it? It's the same thing in the business. If you're not looking at the business from data and saying, okay, well, let's understand what's actually happening and then tweak accordingly. Okay, well, if we need, I'm not that great at sales yet, so I need 10 people to sell 3 memberships, and I want to sell, 30 memberships. That means I've got to get this many people in the door and do the math accordingly, and just kind of reverse engineer the data.
Yeah, and then there's also the intention behind something is, are you reading books because you want to say you read the book? or do you actually want to retain the information? You know,
That's a
I think
great point.
sometimes people are like, I want to read a book a week for the next 52 weeks. I'm going to read 52 books this year.
I think
which
that's
is
a really common mistake,
which
actually.
is a cool goal, and I would rather take a month to get through a book, you know, be on my chalkboard making notes, making meaning of every piece
For
of
sure.
it, and like actually studying it, which is different. You know, are you mining it for information, or are you
It's-
just reading it?
Are you trying to just get through it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah,
honestly.
I'm very similar to you in that if I'll realize I'm like, oh shit, I already finished that book, and I feel like I don't know that much about it. So I've actually adopted a method much like Mike's, where I actually will sit, and after I read a block for every like 30, 45 minutes, I'll sit and write the stuff out because I know I won't retain it if I don't.
And
If I don't take it and practice it right away, it's gone.
I think people lie about reading books too. I think a lot of people are full of shit. I think a lot of people read like 2/3 of it, skim a bunch of it, and they're like, yeah, okay, I read that.
I read that
Yeah.
book.
I do
I
ha-
flipped through the book.
I do have a rule that if I get bored during a book, I put it down.
Yeah,
Like,
why-
I don't,
why would you?
I don't
Don't-
force myself to power through anything. And I used to, because I was like, oh, I'm gonna feel guilty for not finishing this. And like, no, I lost interest because it's not what I'm interested in. I'm not gonna retain this. I'm wasting time.
Well, and it's not going to be the only book with the message
No.
that you're trying to get out of it. You might find a book that communicates in the way that you're ready to absorb that has the same message, but now in a better avenue that you can actually resonate with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about who has the most information. It's just about who has the right information. Like
Exactly.
when I go, occasionally I'll go to like, a big like fitness summit or something like that where there's like, 7 or 8 speakers 3 days in a row. And what I'll do is I'll pick out like 3,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 4, like tops.
Yeah.
I'll spend. I won't even go to any other ones. I'll pick 3 or 4, and I'll just focus on actually absorbing what those are. Because what happens is you get a brand new personal trainer who has now had the opportunity to listen to 25 fitness professionals talk. A lot of them will say things that are antitheses of each other.
Right.
And now they're even more confused. So now instead of knowing like 1 or 2 things really well, they know 25 things, kind of.
Mm.
And it's that same thing. Like you don't need tons of information. You just need to do the right things. I mean, honestly, training-wise, if you would just teach people if people would do push-ups, pull-ups, sprint, play a sport, and stretch, they wouldn't have to do anything else. They'd be in phenomenal shape. People who just really attack push-ups and pull-ups and sprinting with the same intensity that, Ronnie Coleman approached bodybuilding, they're going to get huge benefits. It's not complicated. It just requires that you put in the work. So it's better to know a little bit of the right things and execute it in a superior way than to know a ton of nonsense and execute none of it because you're just so inundated with options.
Well, there's a common theme when I find someone who's really good at what they do, and they come to the same conclusion, which is they're seeking quality over quantity.
Right.
Like, let's do more with less.
Absolutely.
Instead of just trying to like do more.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm reading a book right now called Essentialism, which is
It's a great,
basically
great
that whole
book.
concept.
Great book.
Yeah, great book.
I love
And,
that
and he mentions Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, who you just mentioned earlier, saying that they made about 90% of their wealth from about 10 investments. And they've been investing for decades.
Right.
And 10 investments over the course of like 60 years is not a lot of investments. They picked the best ones, and they went all in on the best ones, like after like rigorous research, making sure that this was like the exact right thing to do. Not that they never had any failures, I'm sure they did, but they weren't trying to like spread their wealth over 1,000 things, trying to diversify. They're spreading their wealth over about 10 things, which is diversified at some level, but they're not trying to do a million things. They're doing a few things very, very well.
Exactly. And they're staying also within their circle of competence, right? Like you'll never see like Warren Buffett, just as an example, investing in a lot of tech stocks.
Right.
Because one of the parameters for him to invest in something, it's got to be something that I understand. Great lesson for anybody trying to invest in anything.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm not opening a restaurant, because I have no idea how to run a freaking restaurant. Do you guys know how to run a restaurant?
I like food.
I do too. That's probably good enough. Go all in.
A lot of people start
I
gyms.
was going to say, that's exactly
all
what
in.
happens. I love CrossFit. Must open gym. What?
Why is this not working?
Well, actually, so speaking of investing, a lot of people, they end up having some success, and then managing success is its own skill set, and then that's where investing ends up coming in eventually. So I know you have an interest in reading about investing and whatnot. Do you have any advice for gym owners that they start a gym, they have some success, and then what do you do with all this quote unquote like extra money? There's so much extra money.
I want to know who's got the extra money.
Well,
There's such a
They're
thing.
hiding it.
I mean, in the market, you're really, unless you are paying someone to manage your money who you trust, which is another big one. I'm really lucky, so I do things a little bit differently. My best friend, we've been best friends since we were 5 years old, runs his own hedge fund. So I have a big stake in that. So for me personally, I'm super lucky. For the average person, though, if you do like the whole diversification thing, you buy the S&P 500, whatever, you're really only allowed to like guarantee yourself over the very long term, like around 4%. That's just the numbers. So if you can spend,
that's not good.
No, it's terrible. So I think people who want to get into stocks, they want to get into stocks because they've heard that compound interest exists, and they're like, oh, I want to grow my money over the long term. But the truth is, like, unless you're at the point where you have like $250,000 of extra money laying around, I wouldn't even fuck around with stocks at all, because every dollar that you could put into stocks, you should put into growing your business, because the whole advantage of having a small business is the growth potential. That's why, a company like Coca-Cola has like no potential for growth because they're already in every country, like in every vending machine or something like that. So as small business owners, we have a huge advantage because we're more nimble and agile, and we can grow a lot faster. So you're much better off reinvesting into your own business, either with advertising or a second location, or doing something like that.
I agree.
Yeah, putting money into stocks is putting money into someone
another
else's
business.
business. You could
Right.
put money into your own business and learn the skill of building wealth on your own,
Right.
where you are in control of your own destiny, so to speak, rather
Right.
than just hoping that someone else's business does well.
Yeah, I see putting money in. I mean, and this is probably a little. I'm on the extreme end. Like putting money in just an IRA,
Yeah.
or having someone just manage it for you is the same as waiting till you're sick to go see a doctor and then putting your health in their hands. So
Totally.
you're not taking any responsibility for your own wealth.
100%.
Like that's. I mean, I think that was kind of like our parents' generation. Is like,
Mhm.
you know what? I'm not going to take responsibility for my wealth. I'm not going to take responsibility for my health. I'm going to like outsource these things to people who went to
Right.
school for this shit. Like, oh, this
Right.
guy's got an MBA and this guy has got a DR and an MD after his name, and
Yeah.
you
Just
know
trust
what?
them completely.
You know what? They got it.
Yeah.
We pay them lots of money, and then you see what's happened.
Right. Yeah. I mean, let's take some personal responsibility, right? I'm the same way. Like with health insurance, I get the cheapest health insurance possible with a huge deductible because I'm betting on myself.
Right.
I'm going to take care of my own shit. Same with business. I want to invest in my own company and have as much of my destiny in my hands as possible. And
Yeah.
I think everybody should want that.
Totally.
You know.
Well, I think Doug's got to go somewhere, so we got to shut the
Fuck,
show
I
down.
do. What time is
He's
it?
about to be in trouble. He's in
Ooh.
trouble.
My 1-year-old's going to be so mad at me if I'm late to pick him up.
Awesome. Well, Max, thanks for joining us.
Oh, man. Thanks for having me. It
pleasure.
was awesome. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Awesome.
If someone wanted to get a hold of you or check out some of your stuff, where could they go?
MaxShank.com or ambitionathletics.com if you're local here.
Dope.
You guys should stop by sometime. That'd be fun.
Yeah,
Yes.
let's
Yeah.
train.
Cool.
All right, cool. Thanks, Max.
Right on.